Hey, how to be a human Christian? It sounds a little ambitious. I agree. The thing is, I see a lot of people who are trying to be super Christians all the time, and I wrestle with that as well. Oh, I want to be so perfect. I want to be a super Christian. And I just want to invite you, as we look at the board here for a little bit, what does it mean to be a human Christian? And how in the world do we learn how to live as human Christians and kind of let go of this super Christian stuff? And frankly, I think the Psalms teach us. And I just want to spend a couple minutes talking with you today about why I think that and how we as the church might begin to reincorporate the Psalms into our own lives, into our families' lives, and maybe into our churches as well. I think the Psalms will lead the way. N.T. Wright had this to say about the Psalms. He said, in the Psalms, the celebration is wild, it's uninhibited, the misery is deep and horrible. One moment we are chanting, perhaps clapping our hands, even stamping our feet. The next moment we have tears running down our cheeks, and we want the earth to open and swallow us. And it kind of sounds like life to me. And I interact with people all the time who are up and down on this roller coaster that is life, and that is also the Psalms. Sometimes as a family we read the Psalms, and my kids are like, oh my goodness, does it really say that in there? And actually, it really does. And welcome to the planet, because that's life. The thing that the Psalms do that I just so appreciate in a counseling context, but also just in a life context, is that the Psalms seem to make allowance for our humanity, while also keeping us very closely connected with divinity. And that's something that you don't find everywhere. And again, the Psalms, they make allowance for our humanity, for our emotions, for our ups and downs. The Psalms make allowance for our humanity, but they keep us connected very closely with God and show us how to approach God, how to live as a Christian, even with all those ups and downs. And we need that. So one of the things I draw for clients all the time is the spectrum of human emotions. I'll draw it for you real quick. Simply, I think that we're all on here. And I would say, if this side of the spectrum over here is the happiest you've ever been, so this is just total joy, just total happiness, and this side over here is maybe deep depression or even suicidal. And I ask people all the time, if you were to look at this, where are Christians allowed to be? How are Christians allowed, where do we end up on this? And what's okay for a believer? And most of the time, my clients see this chart and they say, oh, Christians are maybe supposed to be like here and over. So we're only supposed to operate in this side. And I've had people say, it's easy to pray when I'm feeling this side of the spectrum of human emotions. And so I've asked, so what do you do when you're feeling over on this side of the spectrum? And one person said, well, I just don't pray. So I'm like, oh, there's got to be another way. Actually, I ask people, how often after they say Christians are supposed to be over here, Christians are always supposed to be over here, I say, well, how often are you over there? Or how often are you over here? And they say, well, I'm actually over on this side fairly regularly. And I would say, hey, me too. I live some of my life over here, and it's really, really fun. But I live some of my life over here as well. So here's the problem. If Christians are only supposed to be in this side, then we're never going to show anybody when we're on this side. Until maybe there's just no other hope, and we've got to tell somebody. Also, we're going to be cool praising, we're going to be great singing, worshiping when we're over here. But the minute we cross whatever threshold we think Christians aren't supposed to cross, we will just stop talking to God, and maybe to other believers too. And that's just super, super dangerous. So we're supposed to be over here, right? Well, I don't know about that. Doesn't seem to be a lot of scripture to back that up. So I call this the full spectrum of human emotions, and the Psalms help us to see, how do you keep talking to God? How do you keep praising? How do you keep worshiping? How do you keep interacting with God when you're outside of the joyful times, outside of the happy times or the happy emotions? And is that even possible? And I think Jesus shows us the way, especially regarding Psalms. The Psalms are the book in the Old Testament that Jesus quoted the most. The thing is, most of the time when Jesus quotes the Psalms, bad stuff's happening to him. Most of the time when Jesus is showing us the Psalms, or he's revealing or quoting a psalm, stuff is not hunky-dory in his life. He's not a happy camper. In fact, just a couple of examples. Jesus references the Psalms when he's dying on the cross, when he is hated without cause, when he is talking about his betrayal, when the Jews want to stone him. Also, I'll mention, I'm going to post a couple of links in the comments below, so you'll be able to see some of this stuff later. So, Jesus is quoting the Psalms. Most of the time when he quotes the Psalms, things are not happy in his life. He quotes the Psalms when Pilate asks if he's the Son of God. He quotes the Psalms after his authority has been tremendously challenged. He references the Psalms when he's foretelling Jerusalem's destruction. So again, just to give you an idea, Jesus references the Psalms when stuff is not happening that's fun. I think we have it all backwards. And most of the time when we sing the Psalms or when we reference the Psalms, we're referencing the happy ones and we're singing the happy ones. And somehow we've got to remodel this so that we make allowance for people, for churches, for musicians to sing some of the Psalms that aren't all happy. Because most of us, people in our churches, are not living, I don't know that it's even possible to live our whole life over on this side of the spectrum. So what then? What do we do with our congregations, with us, with new believers over here? Well, I think we show them the Psalms. Oh, my phone is binging today. All right. So just a couple of ideas. I told you this would be a short video. Some stuff that's been really helpful for me and with clients has been this. I'll put a link to this. It's called a feelings wheel. And just you start in the middle with a bunch of some core emotions, and then you work out from there. And again, I'll put a link in the comments section. But I had a client recently who said he took this feelings wheel, and then he took the Psalms, and he started reading the Psalms, and after reading a Psalm, he would look at this and try to identify what emotion the psalmist was feeling. And I told him I was going to steal that idea, so I am. It's a great idea to help us learn to actually ask the question, what is the psalmist feeling? Now, I've had Cambodian clients before who are, for whatever reason, are just not as comfortable labeling their emotions, maybe because they might lose face if they say that they have felt like killing someone. Okay, fair enough. So then we might read something in the Psalms that shows an emotion, a very strong emotion, and I'll ask them, have you ever felt that? This is always an awkward pause. They look at the scripture and they see this emotion in the scripture and then realize, oh, actually, I have felt that. Okay, so what is the psalmist doing with that? It's not just to identify the emotion and say, oh, great, I'm feeling homicidal right now, but to say, what is the psalmist doing? He is still talking to God. He is still in fellowship with other believers in the midst of all this. This is like the original, authentic Christian, who again is living as a human Christian, not necessarily as a super Christian. So I'll post a link to this image as well. One thing that our family, I grew up doing, and we try to do with our kids as much as we can, is to simply read the Psalms of the day. So if it's the third, we read Psalms 3, and then Psalm 33, and you just add 30 to it, and Psalm 63 and 93, and so on. And we don't get to all of them, but we do get to a lot of them. And actually, we alternate months. One month we do the Psalms, the other month we do the Proverbs. So we are being exposed to the various emotions in the Scriptures and what to do with them. So yeah, that's it. I think I'm going to tune out now, but I just wanted to remind you, this represents for me the spectrum of human emotions that the Psalms completely covers and shows us how do we as people live as Christians, as human Christians. Not super Christians, but human Christians. So check out the comments section. I'll put some of those links in there. And